Hello and welcome to Trusts and Estates Weekly. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we're here every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for about 30 minutes to talk about issues related to the administration of trusts, estates, probates, as well as estate planning for our own sakes or learning about what we need to do in order to deal with our property at that, fateful moment when we shuffle off this mortal coil, as Shakespeare says. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a late start this morning. Those of you who have children, you know how that goes sometimes. So, daughter uber alles, as we might say. Can you tell, glowing face, proud dad, all that kind of stuff. So, and just 1 second, I gotta make sure she's got what she needs. I guess so. Okay. Anyway, so here we are. And this morning, I want to talk about a topic that perhaps you've been waiting to hear about. I know one of my friends and colleagues has been waiting to hear about this, and that is getting business from professional fiduciaries. So for those of you who are either are already in a realm connected to trusts and estates or would like to grow your business into that area. So this will be, I think, particularly useful for you because I'm going to go through what those professions might be and how we can work together. So for those of you who are new to the show, and you're saying, well, wait a minute, what's a professional fiduciary? That's a great question. So rather than taking time to answer that today, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and go to the show list for Trusts and Estates Weekly. Go back to the very first show. And it actually, for some reason, it got split into two parts. So you'll see part 1 and part 2. They're actually just overall the first 30-minute show that I did. And I talk about what a professional fiduciary is, what we do, and all those kind of things. But just to summarize it in, 10 words or less, a professional fiduciary is someone who acts in the capacity of a trustee or an executor, executrix, an administrator, administrix, and does that for a living. Now, in California, you have to have a license to do that. There are other states where you have to be a member. You have to have a certification through a particular professional organization. For most of the 50 United States, there is no licensing or certification requirement. Now, by the way, professional fiduciaries do other things, and I am going to be commenting on that in today's show. My practice is centered around trusts and estates, as you might guess by the title of my show. But there are other things that a professional fiduciary may do. It depends on what the person's interests, experience, etc. are. So, as I always do, I have a little PowerPoint. I think it's a more effective way to learn when we can see as well as hear about a subject. And so, here's our desktop, Trusts and Estates Weekly, and here we go. So, again, for those of you who are new to the show, the 3 pillars of attainment is the system that undergirds all of the Way to Wow shows. And today we're going to be working primarily in the pursuits pillar and in the finances realm. Okay, other times we will deal in the other pillars, but today we're pretty much sticking with finances, although you're going to see that finances and relationships, especially colleagues, are going to connect quite a bit. So, first of all, let's talk about what kinds of professionals can professional fiduciaries, which ones do we most often work with, okay? And it's really people who are involved in these different disciplines. So estate planning, financial planning, tax planning, okay, investment management, bookkeeping and accounting, insurance, real estate, home health care. Now, for professional fiduciaries like me who concentrate primarily on trusts and estates, this is a pretty comprehensive list. Now, there are fiduciaries who concentrate more on guardianship and conservatorship matters. Okay, and so the difference is, in a guardianship or a conservatorship, the fiduciary is really in a role where they're helping a person live their life, either because the person has some impaired abilities. They may be, for example, neurodiverse, and so they're not able to fully take care of themselves. They need some support, perhaps in managing their finances, or in dealing with their education, those kind of things, or dealing with their healthcare. And so that's another area. And so guardianship and conservatorship are again other areas where professional fiduciaries act. In those cases, they're dealing with the person while the person's still alive. With estate and trust fiduciary, while we will typically deal with the client before they pass away, most of the time we're not going to be doing anything until after the client is deceased. Okay, and then we take over the administration of their trust or estate, or we may probate their estate, something like that. But we probably do very little while they're still alive, other than perhaps a periodic review. And in some cases, we can be brought in out by another professional after the person who has died. Okay, so you could add to this list, by the way, people, attorneys, etc., who settle people's estates as well as do the planning. Okay, so but these are the general areas. So if you're involved in these areas, you are probably in one or more of these professions. Okay, so top of the list is lawyers. Lawyers do most estate planning, especially when we're talking about documents. So if you're going to form a trust, in most cases, you're going to need the assistance of a lawyer to do that. Especially if you have any kind of complex matter. So I talked last week about special needs trusts. Okay, that is not something you want to undertake on your own. Okay, there are very specific rules about how they work, and you're going to need an attorney to help you with that. Accountants, of course, accountants play a big part in financial planning as well as estate planning and tax planning. Okay, and they may also handle things like bill paying and such. They may have a part of their practice that does that, where they have bookkeepers. So you're hopefully not paying an accountant, especially a CPA, to do your bill paying, but you may have the accountant may have almost like a business management side to their practice, where they have other people like bookkeepers and administrators who help with that sort of thing. Okay, financial planners, you could be a CFP, a certified financial planner, or you could be, I believe it's a chartered financial planner. I think that's in England. Okay, financial advisors. This is what we used to call stockbrokers. Okay, I don't think people call themselves stockbrokers anymore, because there are so many different financial products out there, whether it's bonds, whether it's mutual funds, whether it's ETFs, whether crypto, all these things. So now, financial advisors, cover a very wide gamut, and you know that probably as much as I do. Okay, insurance brokers. Okay, by the way, financial advisors may also deal in insurance, but there are insurance brokers that all they do is insurance. Real estate agents. Okay, and then home health care professionals. Now, with respect to real estate agents, typically professional fiduciaries will work with real estate agents on the transactional side of the business, either because a property needs to be sold, or perhaps there's a commercial property and they need a space to be leased out, okay, as opposed to property managers. Now, property managers are real estate professionals, but in my experience, most professional fiduciaries manage the property themselves. Not all, certainly. Okay. Now, I personally, I come from a background of property management. In Kevin 1.0, I had a property management company that was one of my primary businesses. Okay. And by the way, I could have added to this list real estate appraisers, because oftentimes real estate appraisals are necessary, but really any kind of appraisal might be necessary. Personal property appraisals, business appraisals. So if you're in the appraisal business, you're another type of professional who would be a good candidate for working with professional fiduciaries. Let me just check time. Okay, I think we're doing okay. All right. So how do you get business from a professional fiduciary? I can sum it up in 3 words: build a relationship with that person. Okay, build a relationship. Now, for a professional fiduciary, our stock in trade comes down to 4 values, I guess, if you want to call them that. You see them there: trust, understanding, reliability, and competence. Okay, this is what we sell, if you will. Okay, trust, understanding, reliability, and competence. While we may bill by the hour, or we may have some other way of calculating our fees, we're not really selling our time. Okay, we are selling these qualities. And if you want to build a relationship with a professional fiduciary, these are the qualities that we're looking for in the people we work with. Because if I refer, let's say I've got I'm administrating an estate, okay, and that means that periodically I may have to report to the court about what I'm doing with respect to that estate. Well, if I'm going to bring someone in to help me, I want them exhibiting the same qualities that I'm bringing to the administration of that estate. If I don't feel reasonably sure that the person I'm working with is trustworthy, that we understand each other, the person is reliable, and the person is competent, I'm not going to take the risk of working with that person, because in the end, I have the responsibility for that. Okay, so this is what in my experience, all professional fiduciaries are looking for these qualities first and foremost in the people that they work with. And so it is through the demonstration of these 4 qualities that you can build a relationship with professional fiduciaries. Now, I'm going to stress that word, the demonstration of these qualities. Okay. You know the old adage: if someone has to say to you, trust me, you better start holding your wallet. Okay. Well, actually, I keep my wallet over here. No, I forget where I keep my wallet. But I think you get what I mean. Okay. Saying, I'm trustworthy means nothing. I need to demonstrate that I'm trustworthy in the way that I handle my clients' business affairs. Okay. And a fiduciary, I'm circling the word fiduciary. I realize, I don't know if you can see it that way, but anyway, the key aspect of a fiduciary is we are setting our clients' best interests above our own. That is the highest level of trust you can have, short of clergy penitent privilege. Okay, so anyone we deal with has got to be trustworthy. That's why I put that first. Okay. The other three, I don't know that, reliability is more important than competence. Certainly my ability to have an understanding and be able to communicate clearly with the people I'm working with is very important. So that's why it's second. Reliability and competence, I don't know, those could flip positions in terms of their importance. Certainly, I'm not going to deal with anybody who's not competent or that I don't feel is competent, but I'm also not going to deal with anybody who's not reliable. Okay. And so your job in building a relationship with a professional fiduciary is showing that person that you have these qualities. All right. So let's talk about how do you do that then? Well, actually, before we talk about how you do that, let's talk about how can you meet fiduciaries. Okay. So it's all good and well to create relationships, but you got to meet them first, right? So first of all, referral. Referral is far and away the best way to meet people because presumably the person making the introduction knows both parties. And so you have a sense of the other person by way of, who introduced that person. Okay. So that's as far as I'm concerned, top on my list. Next is networking and educational meetings. So there's lots and lots of networking organizations out there. There are things like most bar associations will have a trust and estate or an estate planning section. Okay. And that's where the attorneys who focus on that meet, they share information, they educate each other's. And there may be, I should say, not probably, but there may be some fiduciaries who are going to those meetings or specifically to meet attorneys who are involved in trusts and estates, probates, etc. Okay. Same with accountants. Okay. They have professional associations, the California Society of CPAs, for example, CSCPA, they have different sections. Okay. I know in my first career, I was part of the credit grantors committee, I think it was called. It was everybody involved with lending. And that was a large part of my business back then, was helping lenders. So those are places that you can network very effectively. Now, I prefer, this is my preference, so, one reporter's opinion, as they say, I prefer focusing on those kind of targeted groups where I'm more likely to meet people who are part of the area that I'm focused on, as opposed to more general networking groups, okay, which there are lots of those out there, and they're perfectly fine. One of the benefits of those is they only have one person for each profession, so there's no competition there. And those can be great. It really depends on the organization. But for sheer kind of, bang for your buck or impact for the time spent, being around being involved in an organization focused on your professional interests probably is better. Now, by the way, I didn't put this in specifically. It just jumped to mind as I'm talking. Another good place to consider are charitable organizations, especially if they have, especially if their focus is in this area. So, for example, here in Los Angeles, we have something called the I think it's called the Jewish Foundation, and that may not quite be the right name, but their whole issue are trusts and estates. Okay, and it's helping their donors estate plan. Okay, so being involved in a charity, and I don't mean going to their meetings looking for business. I mean really being involved in helping that organization achieve its mission. Okay, can be a tremendous way of networking and meeting people and being able to demonstrate trustworthiness and these other qualities that we talked about in the previous slide. Okay. And when you've got that affinity for the organization, okay, that can be a great thing. All right. Here in California, we have something called PFAC, the Professional Fiduciaries Association of California. This is an organization of professional fiduciaries, okay? And I believe all licensed professional fiduciaries in California belong to the organization, okay? We're voting members. There is something called an affiliate membership, okay? And as an affiliate member, you can attend most of the meetings, all the educational meetings, which will give you an opportunity to meet a lot of professional fiduciaries. Okay, you can go to the annual conference. Okay, so all of that is an opportunity to meet lots and lots of professional fiduciaries, and probably as important, learn about what we do in a deeper way. Okay, so that you can position yourself to be able to demonstrate your competence, your reliability more effectively. Okay, and then last, in terms of social media, really, I think LinkedIn is probably the only social media outlet I use in terms of professional networking. I find it a very effective tool, and I do have a show on how to use LinkedIn to create relationships. Okay, and in fact, it's one of the tools I use most often for my own practice. So if you are interested in using social media, so I recommend using LinkedIn. And I wish I could tell you, I think it was back in, I want to say March, I did that show, but it could have been March of last year. Anyway, if you want to go to my YouTube channel and search relationships LinkedIn, you'll find the episode where I explain how to do that. All right, so this is where to meet them. Now let's talk about, oops, what happened here? There we go. Let's talk about how to create relationships. Let's see how we're doing on time. Good, we're doing great. All right, so first of all, target fiduciaries you can help. So if you are an estate planning attorney, okay, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of business from fiduciaries whose practice is centered primarily on guardianships. Okay, I mean, you may get some. Now, if your legal practice deals with guardianship and conservatorships, maybe you have an elder care practice. Okay, so in that case, focusing on fiduciaries who deal with conservatorships and guardianships, that would be better for your practice. Okay, so align what you do with fiduciaries who are doing a similar type of work. Okay, and by the way, there are some fiduciaries, they focus almost exclusively on guardianships of young people. Okay, so if you're I'm thinking out of the box here. Let's say that you are a psychologist who specializes in teens and young adults. So that would be, looking for fiduciaries who deal with guardianships of those of folks in that age range will be much better than trying to, work with me, where I just don't do that kind of work. So I don't think I would ever have an opportunity, certainly not regular opportunities, to refer you business. So target the fiduciaries that you can help. Next, understand their needs. Okay, I talked about them in general at the beginning, things like estate planning, financial planning, bill paying, those kinds of things. You're going to want to understand them in greater depth than that, especially for particular fiduciaries. So some fiduciaries deal with fairly small estates. Others deal with larger ones. Okay. And if you're involved in estate planning, and if you're involved in the administration of estates, you know that it's very different, taking care of an estate where maybe there's a house and a car and some personal property than it is where there's ones with multiple brokerage accounts and, complex insurance issues, that kind of thing. Okay. So understand what are the needs of that particular fiduciary, as well as the more general needs of the category you're working in. Okay. Then demonstrate your competence. Now, the best way to do that is to share information and resources. Okay. So when I'm talking to let's say an estate planning attorney, okay, one of the things I tell them is, hey, if you've got a question, give me a call. I'll do my best to answer it for you. If I don't have an answer off the top of my head, I'll find it for you. I'll, take some time to do that. Don't charge for that. I'm not expecting to be compensated for those kind of things. That's what I do in order to create a relationship. Okay. I was in a meeting on Friday with some real estate colleagues, and one of the women in the meeting was talking about how she was calling people who had an NOD filed against them. NOD is a notice of default. It's the first step in the foreclosure process here in California, as well as other states that have the trust deed lending system, I should say. And what I liked most about what she talked about is she was very focused on helping these people. She wasn't going for the listing. Okay. And she said, I start out the call. I said, I'm just calling to let you know, I saw that there's a notice of default filed against your house. Are you even aware that this is there? Do you even know what that is? Right. And she says a lot of people, A, they don't know, and B, they don't know that it's been filed against them, and B, they don't even know what it is. Right. It sounds scary. And frankly, it is a little scary because you only have 90 days to deal with it unless the lender agrees to extend. Right. So, she does, a dozen of those phone calls a day, maybe more, 20 a day. Okay. And her sole intent is to help the people, because that's creating a relationship. Okay. If business comes out of it, great. If it doesn't, something will come down the road, maybe. But in the meantime, she's demonstrated that her interest is helping these people. Okay. And so that's what I do in working with allied professionals, accountants, lawyers, financial advisors, is I look to be a resource for them so that they can work more efficiently. So instead of having, to spend a lot of time researching some issue, they can just pick up the phone to me or send me a text message or an email and say, hey, do you know anything about this? And if it's within my purview, I'll say yes, or I know what you're talking about. Give me a few hours, or give me until tomorrow. I'll get you an answer. Now, if it's not something in my purview, I'll do my best to refer them to somebody who can answer the question. That's why I say share information and resources. Okay, so if someone calls me about the sale of a home, okay, that's currently held by an estate, okay. While I know a lot about that business, my background in real estate was always commercial real estate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer them to someone I know, someone that I trust, who shares the same qualities as me, that can advise them very specifically and answer their question, and do it again because they're interested in creating relationships. Okay. Finally, the fourth thing you can do to build relationships is refer business. So if you've got a trust, maybe you're creating a trust, and while the trustors are alive, they're going to be the trustees. But when they pass away, there needs to be a successor trustee. So, if you're working with a professional fiduciary and you think that person is trustworthy and competent, et cetera, so you might call them and say, hey, I've got this trust. Here's what it's about. I'm looking for a successor trustee. Are you interested in being named the successor trustee? Okay. And, assuming you're dealing with a credible professional, they're probably going to ask you some questions about the matter to make sure it's within their scope of practice. And if it is, they're going to say yes. And wow, what a great thing to do. By the way, they're not going to get any business out of it right away, presumably, but who cares? Okay, who cares? It's like they know, hey, you're thinking about me, you're helping me build my practice. And so I want to be able to, return the favor. The main thing is be patient and consistently contact the people you're looking to build a relationship with. Think about it in terms of dating in that sense, right? If you're interested in somebody romantically and you call them sporadically, maybe once after 2 months and then after 6 months and then maybe a month later, what impression are they going to get about your intentions? And their answer is probably not very good. Okay, so you want to be consistent, even if you just periodically call and say, hey, just wanted to touch base, see if there's any way I can help you. Okay, my friend Bill, who's an excellent coach in the real estate business, he says call people once a quarter. Okay. And don't leave messages, get them on the phone and just say, hi, it's Kevin. Hadn't spoken to you in a few months. Just wanted to touch base, see if there's any way. Wanted to see what's going on with you and how can I help you? Right. And that's all it takes. Okay. But you need to be patient and you need to be consistent in your contact. Okay. This is not a short-term function. This is building your practice for the long term. Okay. And there we go. I think we're right at about 30 minutes. And I think that was the last slide. Yep. So if you need help, okay, here's some ways to contact me. These will be in the show notes. You can send me an email or you can post something on social media. I'm happy to respond to you however it's convenient for you. Okay, and then we got some, legal stuff here, and we're going to go stop share. Okay, so that's the show for today, and I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you found this useful. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time is Business Lessons from the Military. We're starting on a new aspect of Marine Corps warfighting doctrine, translated to the business world. We're going to be talking about intelligence, not intelligence as in smarts, but intelligence like Spy versus Spy. For those of you who are Mad magazine aficionados, you know of what I speak. I loved that magazine when I was a kid. Okay, and then on Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time is People Making Money, and we're going to be talking about those annoying things called credit scores. Okay, I imagine you've heard about them. You may know some things about them. We're going to take somewhat of a deep dive into them. The reality is these days, if you're going to be borrowing money, if you're going to be leasing a car, buying a house, almost for sure your credit score is going to get checked. So you need to know something about them. So that's what we will be doing on Wednesday. And then 7 days from today, next Monday, we will be back here for Trust and Estates Weekly. I'm going to have a guest, a very astute accountant based in the big Apple, New York City, Vaughn Marie Thomas. And I think you will be very, very interested in hearing Vaughn Marie's perspective on the accounting side of trust and estate. So I invite you to tune in. And by the way, you can always join us live. Just grab the Eventbrite link and get yourself a free ticket. And love to have you, especially when I have a guest, love to have you join us live. You can ask questions. I always reserve a few minutes toward the end of the show for doing that. So thanks again for joining me today. I was going to say this morning, but on the other side of the country, it's already afternoon. I appreciate it very much. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the day. and look forward to seeing you later this week. Signing off, as I always do, Marie, darling, you are my belle. All the best, folks.